Welcome back to Upleveled Strategies Podcast. We are excited to have another episode today with the lovely Amy Nunn. Now, Amy is the owner and founder of Next to None, where she does leadership business coaching. She offers a very detailed certified analysis of personality type and how you are strengthened. Working in your genius, she helps entrepreneurs create systems, process improvements, no matter if they're in a 1 to 50 employee organization. She is currently helping with hiring and onboarding with one of her clients right now, which has been absolutely amazing. And so, Amy, welcome today to Upleveled Strategies Podcast. Tell me a little bit today about how you got started in this space, in this arena.
Yeah, well, thank you, first of all, for having me. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's a kind of a crazy kind of story for me. I was actually in ministry for 23 years, and my last role, I was on staff at a pretty large church. They considered themselves a mega church, and my role was an engagement pastor. And through that, I did a lot of leadership classes, and I personally had 250 volunteers that were underneath me. And so I had to really value the piece of I've got to have some leadership structure because I'm only one person and that's a lot of people.
Yes.
And so it just became like this thing that I just loved. And then I started teaching others the same concept, like people that were in the congregation, like helping them learn how to create these structures within their organizations to be able to grow, because my departments were growing very quickly. And so that's kind of how I got started. I just fell in love with it and the idea of coaching people, helping them understand how to be better leaders. Because what I know is when the leader does well and the leader leads well, the organization is going to grow.
Absolutely. It flows down, right?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. And so what was that like turning point of the change from moving from there to now where you're currently at?
I think part of it was time. I worked about 6 days a week. And if anyone knows anything about ministry, you're kind of on call 24/7,
Yeah.
and
Very
I have,
yeah.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I have two teenage boys. They're now 16 and 17. And my husband and I have been married for about 20 years next month. And yeah.
It's awesome.
And, I realized I was missing out on a lot of things with my boys. And I knew that starting a business wasn't going to be easy. However, it would allow me to be more present. And I feel like a lot of leaders struggle with the work-life balance. And that was me. And it was just like, I've got to make a change.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. So speaking of, work-life balance, that is one of the things that I think entrepreneurs struggle most with because we don't know when to clock out, right? We're constantly, answering our phones or answering emails or thinking about a proposal or, moving through systems that we've like, do I need to do this tomorrow? Oh, I've got, XYZ to do or whatever, So I think a lot of times us as entrepreneurs, we really do struggle with time management and then also, clocking out. And so what are some of the things that you've put in place to kind of help prevent the burnout?
Yeah, I implement this for myself, but I also do this with my clients. I tell them, like I said, okay, you have 3 buckets. So your first bucket are the things that only you can do. Your second bucket are things that you can do, but someone else could also do them. They may not do it at the 100% that you can, but even at 70%, it's still helping your time. And then the last bucket is, what are the things that you're doing that you should not be doing? That think about your hourly wage that you make. If your salary is, salary, I say that, but as an entrepreneur, you're like, if you're making $100,000 a year, what is your hourly rate in that? And that third bucket of those things that someone else could be doing, like how much money are you spending by you doing those things where you could, like I had a client that was doing that. And I said, hey, why haven't you hired a virtual assistant? And they were like, well, I never really thought about that, but it has given them back so much time. And also that piece that they're doing is follow up for that client. And it has just been a game changer. They've gotten more business. They're not doing the things that they can pay someone else to do that's costing them less money.
Yeah. So and I love that this is something that you do is like focusing entrepreneurs in their like genius or their efficiency role. And
Hmm.
so like I love how you break that down into buckets, helping them visualize and see where it is that when they spend their time here, here's where revenue goes up, here's where growth happens, here's where leadership, you grow and you stretch and things,
Hmm.
become bigger and better. But when you are distracted over here in this bucket that, doesn't really matter, it's really costing you
Yeah.
growth,
Yeah.
and so I think that shift, that mind shift is huge in entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
realizing where you have the most impact or how you can focus on that 20% that grows you 80%,
Right.
kind of a deal. Yeah. So that is so awesome. So you help your clients this way. And what are some of the things that like you look for when you're helping your clients? Like, I know that you have a lot of strategy that you work with them through. Like, what is one of the problems that you see really often with some of your clients?
I think sometimes when we're in it, we don't see it.
Yeah.
And I think that that's one of the biggest struggles for entrepreneurs and business owners is because they're in it the day in, the day out. I mean, like, that's something I struggle with. Yeah, exactly. I actually brought on 3 people that are what I call my advisory team or whatever you want to call it. And those people, I go, hey, here's the things I'm doing. What am I missing? Sometimes what I'm finding with some of my clients is they're not asking the right questions
Mm-hmm.
with their employees. And so they're missing things. And it's either how they're leading or they're running a system that they had when they first started their business and it's not working anymore because they've grown. And so I think that's probably the biggest hurdle for a lot of business owners and leaders because you can't see everything. I'm not going to see everything. You're not going to see everything. And that's why like having those people that are around you that are willing to tell you the hard things, staffing yourself so all of us have strengths and weaknesses.
Absolutely.
Staff the people close to you with your weaknesses
Yeah.
so that it creates this balance in the business.
I love that. And that is so huge. That's actually how in Upleveled Strategies, that's how I chose my business partner. She had the
Mm,
strengths that were my weaknesses. And so I knew what to look for because it was the things that I struggled most with. And I was like, I need someone who's really good at this. And then my business partner, I kept asking her, come on, join me, join me. She kept saying no. And then I was like, finally, I was like, please. And then even her husband was like, you'd be silly not to. Like, it's such a great opportunity, And so then we end up partnering, and it's been an amazing partnership. We collaborate really well. We listen to each other. We have different views. And so you very nicely come together. One sees this and one sees it this way. And so then we find like this very wonderful happy medium to where like everybody wins, which is so cool. Now, I know that
yeah.
one of the things that you help your clients with is developing systems and strategies and processes. Now, tell me more about that because I know that's the key to growth and longevity of a business.
Yeah, I have a 3-word rule. So it's
Mhm.
identify what the problem is, analyze the problem, and then come up with a solution and implement it. It's a basic system, and a lot of people do it. They may not say it that way, but
Yeah.
if you look at, especially again, it goes back to the business owner or the leader might not be able to see it. By bringing somebody else in, they look across the board and they say, hey, if you do this and tweak this a little bit, you might get 60% more output here and productivity from your staff because the system has got this huge hurdle that's making them jump all these hoops.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. And so have you like what is some of the things that like because you're new to shifting over to this new business, right? Have you identified yourself any struggles that have been like, oh man, this is a difficult one, or I mean, because it
Oh, yeah.
as somebody who's starting out, you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah.
And so then you like think, okay, I'm getting into this because I want time freedom. I want more time with my family. But then again, like you have to be very strategic with your boundaries, right? Because you also can very easily move into burnout because you're,
Mhm.
because it's a lot to start up
Yeah.
a new business. And so have you identified any like challenges moving into this for yourself?
100% yes. At the beginning, I would work 7 days a week.
Oh, wow.
And even it wasn't all day, it would just I wasn't giving myself that space to step away.
Mhm.
And I think that that's what a lot of business owners and leaders do. They're literally doing it all day, like all week long. And the brain space that you need to step back from it, take some time, and then go back to it. And I had to, man, I was burning myself at the camp at both ends, just going. And so when I finally like stopped one day and I looked at my husband, I'm like, I'm working way too much. And he goes, yeah, you are. And I was like, okay, I need to stop working on Saturdays and Sundays.
Mhm.
I'm not doing anything else. And unless it's a training or something that has to be done, but I balance the week out for that. So I would say that one. The other one that is always a little bit of a struggle for me is the marketing side of things.
Mm.
It is not my strong suit.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to surround myself with people that are really great at that
Yeah.
so that I could start learning more out spinning my wheels. I mean, there's so much stuff out there that you
Oh, there
can
is.
like take this course or do this thing. And I'm like, okay, but like I get about 10% of that and I'm still lost.
Mhm.
And so by surrounding myself with people that know it well and that can give me input into what I'm doing, it's helping me learn along the way.
Yeah. And I love that. Like, on the seventh day God rested, so how does your biblical background and your, being so deep into the church from before, how has that flowed over into your business?
One of the things that I will say is a strength for me is building relationships. I'm a huge proponent of that. I'm a
Yeah.
huge proponent of being a servant leader. And I think the best leaders are servant leaders. They
Yes.
care for their staff and their employees beyond it being transactional.
Mhm.
And that is like a non negotiable for me going into a business because I recently spoke to a group of real estate investors and I said, do you want repeat customers or do you want transactional customers? Because your transactional customers are going to be those one time, you don't really invest in that relationship at all and they may or may not refer you to someone else. Or do you want to be that connecting customer person where you're connecting with that person? They're like referring you, they're coming back to you later. Like it's huge. And I think that has really helped me build my business. Like I was talking to one of my mentors who's on my advisory team, and I was like, I can't believe where I'm at. And it's, been about 18 months and I'm just shocked at how fast it's like grown. And she said, your background has helped significantly. You understand people. And so you work with them really well and you're very approachable with them. And I
Yeah.
think that has really helped me.
Yeah, I love that. My coach from years and years ago, she would say, where does money come from? Like, does it grow on trees? Does it, do you just find it? Like, where does money come from? And as a lot of business owners don't realize that money actually comes from people.
Mhm.
And so, the more relational, the more you make, because the law is the more you help somebody, you help people get what they want and you'll get what you want. And
Yeah.
that's just part of, the laws of attraction and,
Hmm.
biblical law. So it's very interesting, that, some people they chase things and they go for the transactional.
Yeah.
But I love that you're saying, no, it is relational. I mean, there's tons of studies out there that show that once you have a client, you take really good care of that client over and over and over, the lifetime value of that one client becomes multifaceted, whereas you burn that bridge, gone,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so I love what you are putting together for your clients and how you're showing up for them and then moving them from A to B. Like the things that we don't know, we don't know because we don't know, right? And so when we know better, we can then do better. And so when you're looking for clients to work with, like what type of entrepreneurs are you looking for?
Well, I have a couple churches that I'm working with that I absolutely, I mean, I love being able to help churches, nonprofits. I'm just a huge advocate of it. It was most of my career, but business specific, like any types of business, I don't really have a type per se. Just, small businesses. I love helping small businesses. I really love being able to go in and help development. I think that development is so important and a lot of businesses miss it.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning that you have staff, they're grinding for you, they're bringing in the money, and you're not investing in them.
Mm.
What if you invested in them? I actually just recently wrote an ebook, and it's Inspire and Lead Success Strategies for Leading Teams. And it
Mm-hmm.
talks about practical strategies like, hey, how are you recognizing your teams?
Yeah.
How are you investing in them? What type of development are you providing?
Yeah.
All these different things that are like, are you leading by example? Are you the person? This is huge for me right here. This one is just like,
Yeah.
I'll get on my soapbox about it. I won't right now, but are you that person that is doing what you say you're going to do? Or are you saying you're going to do it, but you don't actually do it? Or you want them to do it, but you don't want to do it? That's huge.
The
Huge.
follow Yeah, the follow through. Yeah, I think I see that in parenting so much where
Yeah.
they're like, stop it, Billy. You're going to get it. I'm going to put you in timeout. And then, there is no consequence for Billy, really. And then it's
Yeah.
like they learn that there is no consequence. And so, like I see that a lot, a lot. Like,
Yeah.
if you do this for me, then I will give you a day off. Or, if you show up this way, I'm going to pay you this way, and then like something happens. But I do see it a lot in parenting and that drives me crazy. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that goes back to my own childhood of when the adults used to promise us something and then they would like change their plans and then not do it. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, we've been waiting all day patiently and behave, like, come on
Yeah.
now. It's our turn to go do something fun. So I think that is the follow through and doing what you say you're going to do has integrity, and being honest and showing up for others like you would show
Mm-hmm.
up for yourself. and
Yeah.
and I think those are key components to business ownership, truly. So I love that you're making that awareness for, sometimes we don't know that we're doing it or not
No.
doing it, and so I like that you're saying like you also have that advisory board who has outside eyes looking in and can point out those things,
Mm-hmm.
so that everybody does stay accountable,
Right.
because responsibility is a big, huge thing. And as a business owner, responsibility is huge. Right. And
Yeah.
so, yeah. And so I love that you're helping them stay
My
accountable too.
mentor says this. She says, watch what they do, not what they say. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of people carry that and they watch people. And so if you're a leader and you don't feel like you have the respect of your staff or your employees,
Yeah.
take that statement and look at that. And what might actually shift in your organization if you take that very seriously?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That would speak volumes.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about some of the systems that you help your leaders move through. Like, I know that you set up, you take a look, you identify, and then you're putting together like processes and systems. And what's the reason behind using a system or a process?
I'm trying to think of how to say this. I can't remember the exact statement. So just kind of going,
You paraphrase it. It's all good.
you cannot grow something that you cannot identify.
Mm,
So, for instance, let's say you have a process that you use for sales that you started using at the very beginning
yeah.
of your business. Well, now you have, a sales team of 15 people
Mm-hmm.
and they're all using the same process, but there seems to be some hiccups along the way. Not everybody is engaged because you created that process from the beginning, but now you have different personalities and different people within your 15-person sales team, and that
Yeah.
system is not working for, let's say, 70% of them. So what do you need? You need to look at the system and get feedback from your salespeople. What's working, what's not working,
Yeah.
something like that. Or your hiring process. Let's say I was telling you I was working with an organization, that pretty large organization. They have over 50 staff people and they have no hiring and onboarding process when I started working with them. And I was just like, how are you HR compliant? How are you doing all these things? And
Yeah.
sometimes you just get in the grind of building and growing your business that you forget those things along the way. And those really are the foundation of your business. If you don't have those things, your business isn't going to grow. And it might grow for a while, but you will plateau.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can totally relate. When we started our Upleveled Strategies business, we right out the gate we had customers, but we didn't have an onboarding process. And then we were like, well, why aren't they using the system? And why are they not, like, it's so robust. We can help our clients with automating tasks that they do repetitively over and over again. Like, it saves so much time for the business owner. It manages the calendar. You can do the follow through. We can pretty much automate anything and everything. And, membership sites, all kinds of stuff, even like gathering your reviews, like so many things. And then, so we're like, we knew that the tool was fabulous, but because we didn't have a good onboarding system, people were falling through the cracks and then they weren't like utilizing it to
Mm-hmm.
its potential. And so we were like, okay, we took a step back and we're like, why do you think this is? And then we realized, well, we don't have an onboarding system. And so once we implemented the onboarding system, we noticed like a humongous jump, like right off the bat, like 60% more usage. We noticed people stay longer. We don't have the churn, like all these amazing things happen when you put your systems and processes in place so that you can identify what it is that they need, show up in that way, and then they move forward
Mm-hmm.
and they grow
Yeah.
and you grow together, which is really cool. So I love that you're putting those processes in place for your clients and really getting them to think in a
Yeah.
whole new
I
light,
loved it.
right?
So when I got my certification as a leadership coach, one of the things that I loved about it is I learned different models of coaching because everybody's a little bit different and everybody
Yeah.
needs to be coached differently. And a lot of times what I'll do is I will already identify the issue by just looking at the process. But what I want is for that client, that
Mhm.
business owner to identify it for themselves. And so through series of questions that I'll ask, like there's a statistic that says if you come up with the solution, I'm coaching you and you come up with the solution. Let me backtrack. If I come up with a solution, you're 20% likely to actually implement it. If you come up with the solution, you're
Mhm.
70% more likely to actually implement it. And I could sit here all day long and give people solutions to their system processes, problems, but if I give you the idea, it's not necessarily going to be implemented.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a huge jump,
Mm-hmm.
50% difference. I mean, that's significant. And I do like that you're making them autonomous. You're getting
Mm-hmm.
them to critically think, right? And and it represents them authentically in who they are, because now they're showing up in a whole new operating
Mm-hmm.
system that they
Yeah.
are divinely created for. So it transcends and brings awareness. And I think that's huge in business ownership. And then
Yeah.
them owning that, like I created that, that's pretty awesome. And that's probably why they're more likely to implement it, is because it's like, I
Yeah.
thought of that, that's
It's
so cool.
there's one business that I work
So
with. I do a monthly meeting with their department heads and we strategize for things that they're like, we don't know why this isn't working. And I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about it amongst everyone. And so the team together comes up with a solution. And again, it goes back to everybody's having input and everybody's helping create the solution to the challenge, then everybody's on board and you don't have to try to get buy-in at that point. Everybody's bought in. Yeah.
they are the buy-in. Yeah, exactly. That's so cool.
Hmm.
Such great strategies in helping businesses grow. Yeah. And basically smooth out those systems and get,
Yeah.
transcend the challenges. It's great, So, yeah. And I mean, not that you'll never have a challenge again. There's always something that comes up, right? Things are always ebbing and flowing and changing. And so we have to pivot quite a bit. How has some of the coaching that you've done, how has that helped you see your
Oh
business
man.
differently?
I saw a lot of holes immediately.
Yeah.
But it was actually really great because when you're coaching, and you probably know this, when you're coaching someone, you're really not thinking about yourself. But what I try to do is I record the sessions and then I do a summary back to the client. And so when I'm looking at the summary, I'm like, oh, I don't do that. I need to do that. And because in the moment you're not really
Mm-hmm.
necessarily thinking about it from your perspective. You're looking at how you're bringing, like, I'm a huge proponent, how am I bringing value to the client? And so in the moment I am
Yeah.
actively listening to what they're saying. I'm listening for keywords that they're saying. There's been times where our coaching session has gotten to a personal point of view because something that they said, I'm like, wait a minute, there's something there, and it's blocking them from being able to move forward in this area of their business. And so part of my background
Yeah.
playing into that is helpful because of just the training that I
Mhm.
had as a pastor, being able to ask certain questions and get to the point of something. And I've seen that transform even the way, that mindset of the business owner or the client or the leader, just going, oh, I didn't realize that I did that.
Mhm. Yeah, and I love how you brought up the questions because and then the mindset thing, because when we do ask certain questions, like, why isn't this working for me? Or instead of asking that, because that type of question elicits problem, where if we said, what are the things that we can do to have even more growth moving forward and stretch and collaborate
Yeah.
and it be all inclusive? Like the energy of both are so
Right.
different, you know? And so I love that you brought that up. And so one of the things that you do with your client is ask the right questions, right? So you're getting the right information, but you're also getting
Yeah.
them to think differently in that process. And that is part of your coaching, which I think is phenomenally huge because, like you said, you're sitting down with them, they're coming up with the solution, and now you
Yeah.
have
One of
more
the
buy-in,
things that
right?
typically that I find is that they're stuck in, well, it might cost me this much money to do this and this, that, and the other. So the question that I ask is, hey, if money were no object and you could fix this problem right now, what would you do?
Yeah.
Like, just tell me what you would do. And so they look at it differently. They look at the problem differently because money's
Mhm.
not involved with it anymore. And the
Yeah.
solutions that they come up with are mind blowing to me at times. Just going, wow. They start to think outside of the box, especially for people that have had their business for a couple years and they're just so in the grind of it. They're not thinking outside of the box sometimes.
Wow. That's so amazing. Now, do you help people in person or online? Like, can you do virtual
Yeah,
from
I've
anywhere?
got a client in Florida. I've got a client in Louisiana. I used to have a client in New York. So I do in person and
Okay.
virtual. It's just whatever's convenient for them. Most of my coaching is done
Yeah.
through Zoom just because obviously it's better for everyone's schedule, going from meetings to meetings and all those things. So
Yeah, it's convenient.
I
Yeah.
am,
And you
yes.
are in St. Louis. And so if somebody wanted to work with you, what is the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Go to my website, next to none, NUNN.com.
Awesome. And are you on
Yep.
LinkedIn,
I'm on.
Instagram? Yeah.
Yeah, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, I don't know, all the things.
Okay. And I'll put all that in the show notes for our listeners. And any last thoughts as far as, helping entrepreneurs just catapult forward to where it is that they're divinely designed to go?
Yeah, I guess the first thing I would say is don't be afraid to ask for feedback from your staff.
Hmm.
I've been a part of organizations that didn't value the feedback from their staff. And 9 times out of 10, your problems or challenges that you're having in your businesses are seen by your staff. You're just not always listening to the
Hmm.
staff. And that's a huge, huge game changer for any business.
Yeah.
The second thing would be is if something is broken, don't be afraid to invest in yourself and invest in your business.
Hmm.
I've met with people that are like, yeah, I really would love coaching. I think it could really help me. And I agree with them. But they're like, well, I just don't really want to spend the money on that right now. And what I've seen is the ones that dive in and invest in themselves their businesses are growing and they're making more money.
Huge.
And not that it's not about money to me. It's not about the money for me because I want to help people. That's like, I am very passionate about helping people grow, helping their businesses grow. And it's not so much about the money to me, but I want to see that for my clients because I know that's important to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Great pearls of wisdom there. Thank you so much for being a guest on Upleveled Strategies Podcast, Amy. We are so blessed to have you here. Listeners, if you have not yet liked or subscribed or shared this podcast, please do that now. We need you to help grow this channel and get the word out and help businesses grow, because when businesses grow, we can do more together and help make heaven on earth. So we are so blessed to be here with you today. Thank you for sharing your time with us.